You're good, Porky. Welcome, distinguished parliamentarians, patriotic taxpayers, ethical, hard-working and unbiased journalists, to the most prestigious ceremony of the political year. At the 3rd Annual Jonesie Awards, we celebrate the best of the worst of government waste, egregious greed and pork barrel politics. My name is Louis Holbrook, Campaigns Manager at the New Zealand Taxpayers Union, and my co-hosts today include Taxpayers Union Research Officer, Isla Aitchison, and our diversity hire, Porky the Waste Hater. Together with our scientific panel of adjudicators, we have sifted through 542 nominations of spurious spending. And by applying a complex mathematical formula, we can now present the 10 finalists across local and central government. These range from the small and absurd to the eye-wateringly wasteful. One gilded pig will be awarded for local council largesse. Another will be given for waste in central government. And finally, the most horrible ham, the heinous hog, the humongous hungus, will be awarded to a lifetime achiever in government waste. So Isla, with no further ado, who's hogging the limelight in the local government category?
Well, Louis, it's quite the lineup. Our first nomination for the 2020 Local Government Jonesie Award is Dunedin City Council. Faced with a global pandemic, the council's response was spotty, to say the least. At the end of lockdown, they swung into action by sticking 450 red and blue dots onto the main street. The cost to ratepayers, $40,000. First, the council said the dots were to encourage social distancing. Then, they became about bringing people together in the city centre. Now the dots remain as, quote, a traffic calming device. But they've had the opposite effect on local motorists and business owners. At least the children of Dunedin are happy. The dots have made it great fun to play on the road. To be fair to the council, their pandemic response didn't end there. They recently assembled their finest marketing minds to spend $145,000 on a new tourism slogan, Dunedin, a pretty good plan D. Next in the local government category is Napier City Council for its $1 million man. The council's former chief executive, Wayne Jack, embodies one of the core values of our public service: botch the job and get rich. Despite 7 years on a salary of around 300 grand, he had what you might call a Twyford touch. His screw-ups involved a velodrome that was never built, a conference centre that was renamed twice, an aquatic centre that ended up in court, tap water that turned brown, spying on councillors' Facebook pages, an animal shelter that threatened animal welfare, and a pier that was too short to reach the water. When councillors decided to shuffle him out of the job before his contract was up, they rewarded him with a $1 million golden handshake. This payout was only made public after your humble taxpayers union interrogated the mayor, who tried to pull the wool over ratepayers' eyes by framing Mr. Jack's premature departure as a voluntary resignation. Wayne Jack's last official act was to throw himself a ratepayer-funded $4,000 farewell tea party, courageously inviting all 660 Napier City Council staff. Incredibly, when the mayor criticised the event, it wasn't even about the spending. She was upset she hadn't been invited. Our third nomination goes to Wellington Mayor Andy Foster for extraordinary leadership. When he woke up one morning and opened the paper to the news he had been elected mayor, he was more surprised than anyone. After looking over all the promises he'd made to Sir Peter Jackson, he figured he'd better learn what the job actually involved. The 9-term councillor, who joined the council before I was born and before Bill Clinton became president, promptly enrolled in a week-long leadership course at Arrowtown's swanky Millbrook Resort. The cost to ratepayers, $30,000, including access to a personal executive, a 27-hole golf course, a team coach, a day spa, and a lifestyle coach. So what did Andy Foster get out of it, aside from a belly full of Pinot? When a journalist asked, he couldn't remember. It turns out he never produced a report on what, if anything, he'd learned. In fact, following his odyssey into the Alps, Andy Foster's extraordinary leadership led to mudslinging and relationship breakdowns across the council table. He responded by putting his top-level leadership training to maximum use, by using ratepayer money to bring in a team facilitator to do his job for him. Fourth up, we have Auckland Council for its spandex solution to a global pandemic. While most of the city was in lockdown, Auckland Transport's bureaucrats kept busy, sending hundreds of labourers out onto city streets from Manukau to Albany, turning the city of sails into the city of cones. In a flurry of activity, they dutifully blocked off car parks and vehicle lanes to create temporary cycleways for the city's militant Lycra lobby. 17 kilometres of cycleway delivered direct economic relief to the orange road cone industry, but left motorists and ratepayers fuming, both during the rollout and when they undid it all just a few weeks later. The final local government nomination is Rotorua Lakes Council for its $743,000 biodegradable sculpture. This 12-metre 3D printed behemoth is made from 252 kilometres of biodegradable thermoplastic. Now, our adjudicators couldn't determine why the council decided an outdoor statue should be biodegradable. But the statue, which we assume is meant to symbolise government waste, was set to be installed in 2017 at a price of $500,000, with taxpayers from across the country chipping in for the bill. 3 years after the planned opening, engineering challenges have blown out the costs, and the pieces are sitting in a Rotorua car park, still under construction, with no set completion date. Expectation? Reality.
Well, while all of these nominees are truly impressive, only one can bring home the bacon today. Porky? And the winner of the 2020 Jonesie Award for Waste in the Local Government category is Wellington Mayor Andy Foster for extraordinary leadership. Congratulations, Your Worship. Incredible, really. We must now, though, appraise the glittering stars of central government, some of whom walk these very halls today. The trough was crowded indeed this year, so let me first give some honourable mentions suggested by members of the public. Radio New Zealand was put forward for its taxpayer-funded ad campaign, which claimed that taxpayer-funded radio is great because you don't have to pay for it. Then there was the fire service, which spent $6.2 million on this rebrand exercise. And we had hundreds of people who've never been before concerned about government waste suddenly morph into fiscal conservatives to nominate a particular union that was apparently receiving the COVID-19... Porky's told me not to talk about that. But the single most suggested politician, the people's choice, you might say, was the Prime Minister for her $249 million policy to buy and break firearms. But on to our adjudicators. First, official nomination for the 2020 Jonesie in the central government category. Our Deputy Prime Minister has a wealth of experience in the government waste game. Having first entered Parliament in the year of 1979. This year he summoned all of his wisdom and stared into the eye of a global pandemic. And he decided to fight coronavirus with horse tracks. Yes, in the 2020 pre-budget announcements, the Right Honourable Winston Peters was first out of the gate with a $72 million funding package for the racing industry, ponying up for 2 new synthetic equestrian racetracks. Now, as far as we know, horses can't catch COVID, but our judges have given up trying to understand the mind of our longest-serving politician. Of course, though, this is not Winston's first day at the races. He was nominated in the first annual Jonesie Awards for his policy to give tax breaks to good-looking horses. Next up is Speaker of the House, Trevor Mallard, for his $572,000 slide. Architecturally designed with Scandinavian aesthetics, Japanese maple, all features highly valued by discerning children. The slide delivers maximum safety and minimum fun. The new playground outside Parliament is literally just a slide, some stepping stones and tree bark, but Trevor managed to blow out its budget by $172,000. It made a fantastic photo op for the Speaker of the House, who says that it symbolises a new family-friendly Parliament. But we sent Porky to try it out, and he reckons it's a slippery slope toward wanton waste. Third in the central government category is Education Minister Chris Hipkins for his $87 million modem mania. Chris was really concerned during lockdown. He was concerned about students unable to study from home. So he rushed all of his bureaucrats to the nearest Noel Leeming, where they placed a mass order of internet modems. Now, the modems were meant to be sent, of course, to our most needy and isolated students who didn't have access to the internet, but they ended up stacking up in the offices of stressed-out principals. And when they were delivered, they went to our truly isolated communities such as Remuera, where one was sent to the child of Mike Hosking. So in the spirit of this policy, we've been working with the Ministry of Education to make sure those undelivered modems get put to good use. So Porky, you get a modem. Isla, you get a modem. You get a modem. You get a modem. You get a modem. Everyone look under your seats because you have a free modem. It's not there? Oh, I guess the ministry didn't deliver. Fourth, we have Shane Jones for his $6.2 million gravy train. Now, the Minister of Regional Development continues to prove his worth as the original namesake of the Jonesies. He directed his provincial growth slush fund to upgrade and reopen the Wairoa to Napier rail line at a cost of $6.2 million. Proud as a pig, Mr. Jones predicted that at the line's opening last year, that 2 or even 6 log trains would run on the service per week. Well, maybe that was a porky, because when a journalist asked last month, it was discovered only 3 trips have occurred in total since. That is $2 million in taxpayer funding per train trip, unless you include the opening ceremonial service, which incidentally is the only time we've ever seen Shane Jones on public transport. Perhaps they had onboard movies. And our final nominee for waste in the Beehive is Tourism Minister Kelvin Davis for giving $10 million to AJ Hackett Bungee. Now, the story of AJ Hackett is a truly inspiring tale of the welfare system in action. When he began bungee jumping, politicians thought he was mad. No one wanted to pay attention to him. But now that he is a multi-millionaire, only now politicians realise they want to give him money. A $5.1 million grant, plus another $5 million loaned, all in addition to the company's substantial wage subsidy payout. With other tourism businesses pretty bewildered at this handout for their competitor, we can gladly confirm that AJ Hackett is the only tourism operator in Queenstown that doesn't want to throw Kelvin Davis off a bridge. But out of all of that wanton waste, only one winner gets the Primrose Pig. Porky?
And the winner of the 2020 Central Government Jonesie Award is Winston Peters, responding to COVID-19 with horse tracks. Incredible, fantastic. Contain yourselves. Order. We have one more category to cover. The prize they all aspire to, the big pig, the bulging boar, the sizable swine, marking lifetime achievement in government waste. To recap, the Jonesies are named after our inaugural winner in this category, the Honourable Shane Jones, who bounced back from a motel mishap to grasp control of the Provincial Growth Slush Fund. Last year, Sir Tim Shadbolt took the prize for his long and glittering career in local government. This year's winner is a name that we considered last year, but was rejected by the judges on the basis of lack of experience. But in the last 12 months, this government minister's CV has grown truly impressive in the stakes of waste. From humble beginnings, born in parts unknown, our winner studied political science at Auckland University and turned his powers to journalism before seeking more comfortable employment in the non-profit sector and at a union. No, not a real union, just a trade union. Our winner landed a winning spot on Labour's list in 2008, before being handed the safe seat of Te Atatu in 2011. In 2017, Philip Stoner Twyford was thrust into power as Minister of Housing, Urban Development and Transport. Yes, we checked Wikipedia, and that's really his name. He was elected on some big promises with bigger price tags. He threw down $2 billion in taxpayer money on his bold promise to build 100,000 Kiwi-built homes in 10 years. We're a quarter of the way through that time period. And how many houses has Philip Stoner Twyford built? 25,000? 5,000? 1,000? No, 395 houses. That's not even enough to make up for the houses blocked at Ihumatao. At the current rate, Philip Stoner Twyford will complete his goal in a swift 436 years. But it gets worse. Even with the taxpayer subsidy, these homes are too expensive or located in places people don't actually want to live. As a result, a good chunk of the finished homes have sat on the market for 6 months or more. And the government has promised to buy back homes that don't sell, all on the taxpayer dime. It takes real skill not to sell houses during a housing crisis. Alas, Philip Stoner Twyford's romp in the housing portfolio ended last year, when the Prime Minister finally booted him out of the job and put Megan Woods in charge. But taxpayers weren't safe from our prodigal friend. As Transport Minister, he managed to blow out the cost of a bike path across Auckland's Harbour Bridge from $67 million to $240 million to $360 million, all without a single stone having been turned. He's also spent 3 years steadily ramping up fuel taxes and road user charges. Why? To pay for his true passion, light rail down the middle of Dominion Road to the airport. Well, he spent 2.5 years and $5 million taxpayer dollars investigating the project, only to shelve the idea last month. So, now that he doesn't need the revenue, did Philip Stoner Twyford shift into reverse on fuel taxes? When pigs fly.
Well, I'm pleased to confirm that, for the first ever time, our winning trough snuffler will be joining us live from Te Atatu via Zoom today. So please give a big congratulations to Phil Twyford, the 2020 winner of the Jonesie Award for Lifetime Achievement in Government Waste. Can you hear us, Phil? Phil, you're on mute, mate. Can someone call Megan Woods to fix it? It's enough of that. In Phil's maiden speech in Parliament, he remarked that at the end of our times here, some of us will be remembered, but most of us will not. Well, Phil, you needn't worry, because taxpayers will never forget you. That concludes the 2020 Jonesie Awards ceremony. Thank you to my glamorous assistant Porky, and to you, Isla, and to all of you who work hard, pay tax, and fund the government waste we celebrate today. Before we conclude ceremonies entirely, I understand that our Executive Director, Jordan Williams, would like to make a few brief remarks.
Bravo. Thank you, Isla, Louis and Porky. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have a heck of a lot of fun putting on the Jonesies, and I'd like to thank the MP Chris Pink, who's hosting us, and obviously Mr Speaker, who kindly, amazingly, approves us to do this here in Parliament, like our sister organisation has been doing for 23 years in Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, while the team at the Taxpayers Union have this fun, we're here for a very important message. In fact, the underlying message of the Jonesies could not be more serious. Right now, the message of fiscal conservatism, that politicians here in Parliament and local councils up and down New Zealand need to do a better job at valuing every dollar of taxpayer money, has never been more important. At the Taxpayers Union, we've spent 7 years fighting for fiscal prudence to ensure there is enough for a rainy day. And while, yes, this rainy day has arrived with COVID-19, that's no reason to not remember that every dollar spent by government is a dollar paid for by taxpayers. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very concerned that the Great Dam has now burst, that the 30 years New Zealand has had of political consensus of running low debt has evaporated. And from a campaign perspective, there are now just so many targets of poor quality spending, it is very difficult to know what to focus on. And it's harder to get information. Let me assure you, leading the group that files more information requests than any other organisation outside of Parliament, the idea that the current government is, to use the Prime Minister's term, the most open and transparent government this country has ever had, end quote, is laughable. In the time it takes me to say this sentence, the government has borrowed $6,754 from future generations. In other words, The government's own forecasts see public debt increasing from $58 billion to more than $200 billion by 2024. Let's put that in perspective. That's $1,125.70 per second, for every second, for the next 4 years. On a per household basis, it's adding $109,000 to the mortgage of every single New Zealand household. We need to take back control of how taxpayers' money is spent. So I'm asking you to join and support the work of the Taxpayers Union and our mission of lower taxes, less waste, more transparency across all levels of government. Only with your support can we continue to ensure that there is a strong, loud voice for taxpayers in the corridors of power, because of these, as these awards have shown, we sure do need it. Thank you very much for making our work possible.